listen.
Hello, everyone. This is Data-Driven Chat, and today I'm very glad to introduce David Praise Chukwuma Kalu. David is a data scientist. He is also a computer vision, machine learning, artificial intelligence engineer. He has a associate position at Singidunum University. He's also a very sought-after blogger at datahacker.rs. Does a lot of cool projects. And I'm very happy to have you with us today, David. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for having me. How about you?
Good. Thanks a lot. And thanks for finding the time to talk to me today. So to kick off our discussion today, can you tell us about your personal journey? How did you become interested in data science?
That's a very good question. So during my first year of my study program, of course, I took a mandatory course, which gave me like a very good introduction into the field of data science. And we discussed about doing like data processing, visualization, and different machine learning algorithms such as linear regression, LDA, K-means, and KNN. And by myself, I continued to research more about how these algorithms worked in depth. So instead of just importing them from different libraries to understand how the algorithm works.
So I just want to say to our listeners that you have a degree in engineering. Is that correct?
I'm still on my undergraduate program.
That's
my third year.
That's right, but you're studying engineering, right? So that's how
Yes,
you got into data science. Awesome.
Exactly.
And you're from Nigeria. Is that correct?
Yes, born and raised in Nigeria. So
can you tell us about the challenges that you face in studying data science in Nigeria? Because you started presumably your journey and your interest in engineering and in data science in Nigeria. So it must be quite challenging to find the materials. So can you give some tips to people in developing countries? What can they use? Should they start with, online materials or maybe some textbooks or, maybe finding the right people who can help them in their journey. So, can you share some of your experience with this?
So, of course, my experience, I never knew anything about data science when I was in Nigeria.
Okay.
It was once I came over here to Serbia, Belgrade. Once I started my study program, that was how I got introduced into the field. So it was more of like a huge surprise for me about how incredible a computer is able to analyze different images and make predictions. So,
yeah. But can you, for those people who are in this situation, so imagine that there are people in Nigeria or in other developing country, where would you advise them to go if they, maybe they have access to some online materials occasionally, but I guess the materials are very scarce. So where would you go for this?
So if you're starting out in this, I would recommend taking a machine learning specialization course from Andrew Ng. It gave me a very good introduction to the field. He mostly focused on the theoretical part of machine learning. So of course, the practical part, there are so many online tutorials that you could find, and also blog posts. You could find them online. So you could also use that as a tool. You could also use that to support your learning process in this field.
So can you tell us what are you currently working on? What keeps you awake at night? What makes you excited?
Oh, that's a very good question. So what keeps me awake at night? Of course, I'm managing my social media profiles on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm also, of course, studying, undergoing my bachelor's degree in engineering. And also, I also work for Data Hacker. I'll contribute by writing blog posts, and also we work on projects related to computer vision and time series forecasting.
Well, as a frequent reader of Data Hacker, I can recommend to people, who haven't heard about this blog, please do check it out. It's very, very good.
Yes.
You already kind of touched on what one could do to get into data science, but as someone who works, how can you just expand on it a little bit? So you mentioned the course by Andrew Ng, but as someone who works in data science, can you give some tips to people who want to get into the field? What is the most important thing when you want to work in data science, in your opinion?
So that's a very good question about what's very important when you want to get, of course, started into data science. So I would say that if you want to get into data science, there's something that you should know. Like the way I tend to think of data science is that I group it into 3 different layers. So the spirit, soul, and body. So you might ask, okay, well, how does that relate to data science? So you could think of the spirit as the bottom part of data science. So this is where data engineering comes in. So we're doing a lot of data collection and data analysis. And of course, you could easily learn this process on Kaggle notebooks. So they are available online, open source for free, as also on the forums and also an online course that you could take. And okay, so I've mentioned about the spirit. So now here comes the soul. The soul is actually the middle part of it. That's like the next layer. So this part involves like building predictive models for making predictions. And of course, I mentioned earlier about taking Andrew Ng's course. You could use that. Also blog tutorials online. And of course, when you're taking these courses, you shouldn't lose focus. Like once you start it, you shouldn't stop halfway. You should start it and complete it. And so now we've talked about the spirit and the soul, and now the last layer, which is the body, is like the top layer. So this is where the storytelling comes in. So this is where you should work on your communication skills. So when you're speaking, you need to be persuasive with the way you present your solutions to both technical and non-technical people, so they could benefit from them. And when you're persuading them, you should be clear, concise, and also straight to the point.
Awesome. So there you go. A great tips from David there. So you should think of data science in terms of the spirit, the soul, and the body. I really like that analogy. It's awesome. Thank you very much for sharing this with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Why do you think data science is important in practice? How did it change the world in the last few years? So what is the big picture?
Well, we've seen that data science has had a very huge positive impact in different sectors, such as the healthcare and the finance. So in healthcare, it could be in the form of medical imaging, whereby an algorithm is able to learn from different images given to it, and it's able to interpret what's on that given image. So let's take an example. Let's say you gave it an X-ray image, or like a mammogram type of image, to detect if a patient, to correctly diagnose if a patient has breast cancer or not. So the algorithm is able to do this because one good thing about this is that the algorithms, they're not like us humans, because we humans, we tend to think about a lot of things. So basically right now you might be thinking, what am I going to have for my next meal? What am I going to do tomorrow? And if you also think of another way, is that think about this. 7 days ago, could you remember exactly everything you've done? So of course, you might remember a little bit of details, but not like to the point. But these algorithms, they can remember every single thing that was given to them, and they don't think about what they're going to eat for the day, what's going to be the next meal. So they're only focused on the task given to them.
So David, how important is the ability to code in your opinion? And how can people develop this ability? So there is this opinion that, in principle, you could also work in data science and AI without knowing how to code. So do you share this opinion, or what do you think about it?
That's a very good question. Well, for me, the way I think of this, about your question, is like, I'll say the ability to code is very important, because there's so many like platforms people have created, Pretty much you don't need to know how to code, so you just more of like a drag and drop and you build a model. But if you really want to understand how these algorithm works and to utilize these models, these algorithms to their fullest power, it's very important to know how to code. And there are a lot of like online tutorials you could learn from this, that are out there.
And would
So,
you,
for example, you could.
and would you sorry to interrupt, but would you recommend learning Python or R or maybe some other models or some other programming tools? So, what's your recommendation?
For me, I would recommend Python. But I would recommend Python. However, you could learn any tool. These are just tools. Okay, you just need them. You just need these tools just to solve a problem.
So we cannot avoid COVID-19 pandemic. It has affected everybody's lives, and a lot of countries are now in quarantine. So
Yes.
do you think data science can contribute to solve the current problem?
Well, yes, I believe that it could actually contribute. I mean, if you check online and read from different sources, you can see people are doing a lot of incredible things. For example, building visualizations. It could be people working on different algorithms, like creating these models that could able to detect if a patient has COVID-19 or not. Because normally, when you're doing the manual test process, you could have a lot of false positives. And what I mean by false positives is that when a patient isn't diagnosed with COVID-19, but is actually told that, okay, you have COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So thank you so much for that. Looking at the bigger picture, what do you think is the future of data science? How will it develop in the next 5 years? What are the hot topics? I guess I'm asking you to wear your blogger hat now. Like, what are the hot topics in data science that will develop in the next 5 years?
Well, of course, some hot topics that will develop. Definitely, I see computer vision. It's definitely going to keep rising. It's like the best area for research. And apart from computer vision, that's the part that I'm 100% sure about. But I know I haven't really explored into different areas, so I can't really comment too much on that.
Okay, so this is kind of the question that I ask all speakers at the end, this is the question that most speakers have problems with. I normally ask them to pick one book and one film that they could recommend to other people. So if I ask you to do the same, if you could pick one book and one film that you would recommend for people to watch, they do not have to be related to data science, so they could be just films, right. A film and a book that really inspires you. So what would your recommendations be?
So for a film, I'll go with the series Money Heist. It's more of like a criminal mastermind show. And for a book, probably I'll go with the Data Science Handbook by Jake Vanderpoels. It was the first book I read about data science.
So can you tell us a little bit more about Money Heist? So why that film? Is that the creativity in the way these guys invent different crimes, or is it So why do you like it? Tell us.
Well, it's a Spanish, of course, TV show. So one thing I like about it is it's the way they are able to organize the biggest heist. I just love the action in it. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. David, well, thank you so much for finding the time today to talk to me. It was really great. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And
thank you very much.
I think this analogy that you came up with about the spirit and the soul and the body is absolutely amazing. So I think a lot of people would be very interested in hearing that. So thank you so much again for being with us today.